Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I'll be talking about how official disclosure about non-human intelligence coincides with artificial general intelligence and how we are currently in the singularity. And I'll be talking about how that ties into Graham Hancock's research. So just a couple days ago, I put out a video about artificial intelligence and how we're in the singularity based on what Elon Musk and Sam Altman are saying. And then I kind of started having the wheels in my mind turning and thinking about how the singularity is the reason why so many people are probably seeing non-human intelligence coming to them. So that is in the form of orbs, and it's in the form of grays and mantids, like literally physically coming into people's lives. And so I just wanted to kind of touch upon like what my thought process is and kind of how it ties into the 2027 to 2030 predictions. So with where artificial intelligence is right now, it does seem like we are on a really fast horizon that within the next 5 years, give or take a few years, there's going to be massive societal change, and that means change to our currency systems, change probably to how we handle energy. We might have free energy that maybe if it's not implemented in 5 years, we'll actually know how it actually works and then can begin implementing it on a wide scale from that point forward. There's going to be mass unemployment as automation, robotics kind of take over a lot of jobs, and just AI itself is taking over a lot of jobs. And so there's a lot of change, and so this means that we're going into a new age, and this is a new industrial age. Just like how we went from horses and buggies to moving to cars, like this is the same exact kind of thing that's happening. You can't go back to the way that things were. Things are just going to be far too different. And for that reason, I think that like aliens are coming here to kind of witness what is occurring. And so, if you've ever had like kind of like the thought game about like if you could go back in time to any time period in history, where would you go? A lot of people kind of point to the major turning points in society where there's major technological change, and just like great new structures that are being built. And so if you look at this from the perspective of non-human intelligence, especially if they come from the future and they're looking backwards, almost like what Dr. Masters has talked about with like the future humans theory, you would think that these beings would say, like, I want to look back on humans and when they were going through this major change of having artificial intelligence changing everything in society across the entire world. And even if you didn't believe in future humans and you just thought that aliens are ETs or extraterrestrials or from another star system, where you think that they're from another dimension, it doesn't kind of eliminate the interest and like the kind of like glowing obsession that they might have with like watching this change happen. If you knew definitively that there was going to be a major upheaval happening to a society, like it's almost like you'd want to go grab your popcorn and sit down and watch and say like, how is this going to play out? Or they might already know how it's going to play out. And I'll touch on that a little bit soon, because I do think that they know what's going to be happening, and they're going to be getting involved. With their increasing sightings, especially I would say over the past 20 years of these non-human beings, I think that it is an acclimation period that is getting everybody ready for these beings to like really appear in our lives. So obviously people have seen non-human beings going back at least until the Roswell days forward, as far as America is concerned. But you look at lots of myths and lots of old stories, ancient texts, and forever throughout all of human civilization, there have been non-human beings that have been present and have kind of lent a hand, I would say. And so I do think that what we're currently seeing in modern society is that there's people are getting used to seeing these strange things in the sky. People are getting used to having like kind of downloads and um, seeing objects moving on their own, and just like seeing things that are quite strange that might be kind of more common coming up in the near future as AI actually has a major impact on everybody's life. And so this kind of ties into Graham Hancock's research. So he believed in something called like the civilizers, and there were people that seemed to have kind of like paranormal gifts or have paranormal events that kind of traveled around with them. And they appeared after times of great change and great cataclysm. And so obviously we don't have any hard proof that there were any kind of like AI systems going back into ancient civilizations. I mean, there's obviously speculation where people said that Atlantis and um, ancient Egypt, that goes even further beyond like what we think of as ancient Egypt. Like people have said like maybe those were like highly technologically advanced societies. Um, but for Graham Hancock's purposes, when he's talking about ancient civilizations and kind of these people that stepped in to help, he was talking about just like times of major change, like from Earth changes. But it's interesting how he talks about how like it's like these people kind of came out of nowhere and they just kind of appeared to help society, and it seems like that could be very well what we're witnessing right now. That as we're in this kind of really hard, brutal, difficult transition period of moving from this current kind of culture and society into a like hugely automated society, we probably will need help if we don't have money to kind of get us through it. And we're trying to kind of like work out the kinks of how everything's going to work in the future. So Graham Hancock, he spoke about, and this is in Fingerprints of the Gods. He spoke about how in the ancient legends of the peoples of the Andes, they had a kind of ancient myth that they spoke about that was about having a major flood. And he said that after that flood, the societies were plunged into darkness by the disappearance of the sun, and society had fallen into disorder. And then they talk about how like this man just miraculously appeared out of nowhere, and he was called Tiki or Tichi Viracocha. And so it said, this is quoting from the book, then there suddenly appeared, coming from the south, a white man of large stature and authoritative demeanor. This man had such great power that he changed the hills into valleys, and from the valleys made great hills, causing streams to flow from the living stone. And then it's talking about how like through the years, like so many people had heard like the tales and the stories of this man that was like kind of like wandering the land and changing everything. And it goes on to kind of talk about like the kind of paranormal kind of air that surrounded Viracocha. So it said, if his life were threatened, as it seems to have been on several occasions, he had the weapon of heavenly fire at his disposal. And so it's quoting here. Working great miracles by his words, he came to the district of the Canas, and there, near a village called Cacha, the people rose up against him and threatened to stone him. They saw him sink to his knees and raise his hands to heaven as if beseeching aid in the peril which beset him. The Indians declare that therefore they saw fire in the sky, which seemed all around them. Full of fear, they approached him, whom they had intended to kill, and besought him to forgive them. Presently they saw that the fire was extinguished at his command. Those stones were consumed by fire in such wise that large blocks could be lifted by hand as if they were cork. They narrate further that leaving the place where this occurred, he came to the coast, and there, holding his mantle, he went forth amidst the waves and was seen no more. So it's just, if you think of this entire tale from the perspective of what might we be seeing right now as far as like quote like non-human intelligence and aliens are concerned, we would see people that think that these things are demonic. They are scary. They can't be contextualized within our current like religious frameworks unless you're looking at them as again like demons or jinn or just something that's like really bad. And there will be many people that are going to look at these kind of outsiders, these civilizers, and that want to hurt them, want to kill them. And we've even seen from our own military that when there have been orbs seen in the sky, our Air Force or Navy pilots are trying to shoot them down. And it's like kind of shoot first, ask questions later. So that kind of ties into the story of Viracocha, because it was this man like traveling along trying to help people, and then they tried to kill him anyway. And then it was like fires lit up the sky. And so the way that is even described, I mean, obviously we have the very famous alien UFO movie called Fire in the Sky about Travis Walton, but it ties into kind of even what we're seeing in modern society, where there are these kind of golden and orange colored, like flame like orbs that appear at certain times. And sometimes they're humongous, sometimes they come in multiples. I believe that Chris Bledsoe, when he first saw like these kind of orbs upon his first like major encounter outside when he was taken, like he saw one and then like more appeared. So it kind of sounds like from that ancient Andes kind of tales that they might have seen something like that. And this man was kind of a screen vision or a projection or whatever you want to call it. He was just like some kind of non-human being that had appeared to everybody. And then he kind of like called in the troops, so to speak, and brought like fire in the sky to support him. And then there was another example that was kind of cited by Graham in his book, and he kind of talks about Indian type of lore. And so he talks about, this is quotations that were taken from the Bhagavata Purana and from the Mahabharata. And so I'll kind of like read through some of these, and this is again from their ancient texts, what ancient peoples had seen. And this was going back to times of cataclysm. So he said, "Oh, you descendant of the Kurus, that wicked fellow came on that all-traversing automatic flying vehicle known as Sabhapura and pierced me with weapons. He entered into the favorite divine palace of Indra and saw thousands of flying vehicles intended for the gods lying at rest. The gods came in their respective flying vehicles to witness the battle between Kripakarya and Arjuna, and even Indra, the Lord of Heaven, came with a special type of flying vehicle which could accommodate 33 divine beings." And so that was just really kind of strange to read about how there were like these magnificent flying vehicles. And I had not heard about this kind of existing in Indian culture. Forgive me if this is like very common knowledge about India and ancient beliefs. Obviously, we've heard about flying vehicles through ancient Egyptian kind of carvings on walls, especially within the pyramids. Like there are these things that look like UFOs that appear to be inside. But it's interesting that even in India there are these long ago tales about people coming with their miraculous crafts in the sky and coming at times that there were cataclysm. And so again, just goes to show it's like while we're going through this new age of enlightenment with AI, like they could start showing up in fleets in the sky. And I would even say that like there are different nights that I see lots and lots of orbs in the sky, and my friend called them a fleet, so I call them a fleet now too. So if I'm seeing 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 of these orbs all crisscrossing like crazy all across the sky within like 20 or 30 minutes, like it's a fleet, and it almost seems like it's very similar to what these people in India were talking about very, very long time ago. And then to kind of like close this out with like another kind of like little bit of information that Graham Hancock dug into in this Fingerprints of the Gods book. He talked about like going and meeting with Hopi elders and hearing their stories about like what would be happening in our future and with our cataclysms. And so I think he kind of like broached this whole topic by at first talking about Edgar Cayce and how he believed that there would be major Earth changes related to a pole shift. And I believe that Edgar Cayce, he'd never really put dates on anything, but if you kind of judge it based on like how he was talking about like his lineage and his legacy, and people kind of like place that the major pole shift starting to ramp up and there being a cataclysm around like the year 2000. So he kind of like goes from like talking about, well, there's already been discussion about there being like major change in our lifetime by Edgar Cayce, but the Hopi people also expected there to be major change. And so again, this doesn't relate to AI specifically, but it does relate to major change and how there could be people that are stepping in. And so in the book, I will quote, it says, "There was a long exchange in Hopi," and they're talking about like talking about the myth of like what will be happening in the future here on Earth. And so it goes, "He said that when he was a child in the 1900s, there was a star that exploded, a star that had been up there in the sky for a long while, and he went to his grandfather and asked him to explain the meaning of this sign. His grandfather replied, 'This is the way our own world will end, engulfed in flames. If people do not change their ways, then the spirit that takes care of the world will become so frustrated with us that he will punish the world with flames, and it will end just like that star ended.' That was what his grandfather said to him, that the earth would explode just like that exploding star." So he asks, "So this feeling is that the world will end in fire, and having viewed the world for the past 90 years, does he believe that the behavior of mankind has improved or worsened?" And the response is, "He says it has not improved, we're getting worse. So in his opinion, then the end is coming?" He said that the signs are already there to be seen. He said that nowadays nothing but the wind blows, and that all we have to do is have a weapon pointed at one another. That shows how far apart we have drifted and how we feel towards each other now. There are no values anymore, none at all, and people live any way they want without morals or laws. These are the signs that the time has come. And so, again, these aren't relating specifically to the singularity at all whatsoever. These are just talking about myths of future cataclysm according to kind of like old prophets, so old Hopi prophets and Edgar Cayce. But they were specifically talking about these times of cataclysm in relation to kind of what their ancestors had gone through and what they had experienced as far as like receiving assistance. So while there are many prophets, many civilizations that believe there is like major change on the horizon that's like cataclysmic, we're probably, hopefully, not facing anything like that, but we are facing major change again because of AI. And if the past is repeating itself as far as non-human intelligence stepping in and kind of showing us the way and making things easier, it seems like that is probably what is happening. And so we've had a lot of discussion, especially over the past week, that there is going to be like an official speech made by the White House that like non-human intelligence is here with us and interacting with us. And Robert Bigelow was even just saying that he has been heavily encouraging President Trump to come out and have that kind of address to the nation about this. And it's, again, it is coming at a rapid fire pace. So when 15 years ago we weren't really hearing much of anything, we're now hearing a lot of official discourse about this, and a lot of chatter from people that are in very high positions saying that there's going to be, like, again, actual, real, official disclosure to the American people. So I do not want to hang my hat on that and say it's definitely going to happen, because we have been burned so many times from the people saying like this will happen by this date, and it definitely doesn't. And that's how we have the whole meme about like, oh, like just push it off by 3 years. Oh, like if it hasn't happened, it'll be happening 3 years from now. So I hope that we're going to have official disclosure, and it's coming on the heels of like this need to know these beings before they start to help us. I do believe that it would be a very hard transition period if these beings are not kind of officially disclosed to the world before they kind of start showing up and trying to be of assistance. But I personally think that they'll be here either way. They are already here. They are already showing up in huge numbers as orbs over individual homes and in CE5 events, and they're showing up in people's homes and coming to people astrally to give them messages. It's like there's this huge amount of contact that is happening right now, whether official disclosure happens or not. And I suppose if official disclosure doesn't occur, then they're just going to ramp it up, and they're going to keep coming to people individually as they have been. Yeah, but I would be very interested to kind of hear what Graham Hancock's thoughts are on, I suppose, like what he thinks of aliens contacting people right now and how it kind of ties into the AI revolution. Because as far as I'm concerned, I think that there is like a very definitive tie between these kind of like two events of major disclosure and AI kind of taking over the world, like both of those happening at the exact same time. Like that is not a coincidence. Yeah, so if you have any thoughts on this, please let me know. And especially if you've heard of any other people kind of like talking about this connection. I briefly heard Whitley Strieber kind of like mention it in an interview, but he just kind of like made one sentence and then kept on talking about something else. Yeah, if you've heard other people talking about this connection or might have more details about how these are directly linked, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.